All right, welcome. Avoiding Burnout Part 5. This is our last section. I'm Kelda Lane Poynott, author and educator, and you can reach me through my website, keldalanepoynott.com. All right, last section, defending our hearts. And these are ways that we are going to bolster ourselves and strengthen ourselves so that burnout is not going to even be a temptation out there. It's not going to be something that is even going to bother us because we are defending our hearts. That's not to say that we're not going to have low times and high times and sometimes in between, and there are just going to be some really hard challenges along the way. But I believe that these are ways that we can strengthen ourselves and be ready for whatever comes. The first thing that I'm going to recommend is that we read. We read for ourselves. We read things that inspire us. We read things that entertain us. We read things that really nurture us in whatever way. If we need an adventure novel, if we need some romance novels, if we need just some good old fashioned instructional books about, nonfiction things, then I'm going to encourage you to make it a habit to read maybe 20, 30 minutes a day. If reading isn't really your thing, then maybe an audiobook would be a good way for you to get new knowledge in or get some good literature into your life. I read all the classics with my children, either on audiobook, mostly on audiobook. I'm a highly audio learner, and so that's not a big thing for me. But I made it the habit that we listened to books when we were eating lunch every day, or if we were on road trips, or even running errands around town. We most always had some kind of storytelling going on in the vehicle. We also, I also make it a habit to read along with the books that my children are reading. And so audiobooks was the only way I can do it while I was still doing dishes or cooking supper or waiting for my kids at practices. It also helps me to knit and crochet. I'm allowed to do those things while I am listening to a book. So, whatever way, I would encourage you to read. And if it's something, that's going to nourish your soul in a spiritual way, then of course, make that a priority as well. Planning. Okay, a couple of sections ago, I gave you a weekly planner. You need to plan times for yourself, and you need to have an understanding of where your time is going, much like a budget that we know where our money's going. We need to have a time budget that is, a weekly planner that our time, knowing where our time is going and what we're doing in a day, in the course of a day. This also helps with meal planning. This also helps with seeing what's going to be like on the calendar for the week. Like if my husband's going to be gone for 3 days, how am I going to manage, everything on my own? This is when we have practices or meetings in the evenings. How am I going to make sure that there's food ready for supper? Are we going to have sandwiches? Are we going to have crock pot food? Um, are we going to make a gumbo on Sunday and make sure that I have enough leftovers for at least two more meals during the week? Whatever that looks like for your family, planning is essential. Like I said before, habits prevent hassles. And for me, having the habit of meal planning, having the ability to write things on a calendar and to see where my time is going to be needed, where I need to be at different times, makes it a much better rhythm for my entire family when there is a plan. And my kids like to know the plan ahead of time. And I would say, in the morning, we have to be dressed by this time to be at the dentist appointment, or tomorrow is church, and then we have to be ready at this time so that they have a sense of preparation too. So we're not scrambling all the time. Planning might just making sure that all of our shoes are kept by the front door, or that everybody has a specific place for their backpack when we're going on an outing. Making sure everyone has a water bottle. Put somebody in charge of that. Everybody, your assignment is to make sure everybody has a water bottle before we get in the car. Planning is really, really important to, for me, basic survival. Okay, because I knew that when we would get places, it would just be a hassle all the time. All right. Exercise and fresh air. Like I said before, I'm not a huge, like, yay, I love to exercise, but I do like fresh air. I do like soaking up a little vitamin D on occasion, like every day. And in seasons of the year where it's cloudy and overcast and we're, down for a week, or we've had a lot of rain or whatever is happening, um, we get a little stir crazy. So fresh air is important, even in wintertime, even when it's a little bit inconvenient, making that a priority to swim in the summer, to walk in our neighborhood, ride bicycles, exercise, go to a class, go to the gym, whatever works for you. But get some exercise and get some fresh air. Our kids need it, and so do we. All right, time for self. All those white spaces on your time planner, figure out a time when you can take it for yourself. If it took me getting up at 5:30 in the morning to have some quiet time, I sure as heck was going to get up at 5:30 in the morning to have quiet time. Sleep didn't count as quiet time. Going to bed at a reasonable hour, getting up early, made for me to have an incredibly um, just strong day, just a strong day. So time for self. If you need to unwind, if you're an introverted person and you're just being like bombarded by all these little people, then please find a way to get your quiet time, to get your what's going to fill you. If you're an extrovert and you need friends, you need peers, you need time with your spouse, if these are things that you need, then of course, go and seek those things out and schedule it, plan it, make it a priority, because we need to take care of ourselves because we're managing a lot. We're spinning so many plates. We're trying so hard to get everything done. And I want you to feel successful in that. And it's really healthy to have some kind of something for yourself and not just living for all of these other people in your life. All right, like minded friends. This was very challenging for me. Early in my parenting, I realized that I had to find like minded friends. I found friends who encouraged and supported my choices in parenting. We were that family who breastfed. We were that family who chose to homeschool. We were that family who lived and marched to a different drum beat. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't really plan this, but once it was placed on my heart and I just knew that this was the path that I wanted to follow, then I needed to find some people who were going to support and encourage this thinking. Some places that we've lived, those friends, quote unquote friends, were people on social media, or they were people who I read about in books. And those were my encouragement. Those were my mentors. They were not people locally necessarily that I had. I did not have people in my church who supported, many of them, maybe from a distance supported our decisions, but they weren't like, oh, all about it and embracing it. I also had people in our family. They were not my support and encouragement. I need like minded friends who I could learn from, how to feed my children better, how to make sure that, they didn't think that all vegetables were evil. I needed wiser counsel. And so I needed other friends who would support and encourage me in the choices that I was being led to make. I felt that this was our path. So if you don't have those like minded friends, I'm going to encourage you to find those like minded friends. We had play groups of stay at home moms. Because I was a stay at home mom, I needed other stay at home moms to be an encouragement to me. I didn't know how to do that. I also, when I started homeschooling, I needed other homeschooling friends to help me through this process, to be that voice of encouragement, to tell me, yeah, sometimes it's hard, Kelda, but let's figure out how to make it better for you, or let's figure out a different way. Not in a way that's going to make me compare my life to theirs, and not in a way that is going to make me feel bad for the decisions that I'm making that are best for our household. So, like minded friends. And you might be surprised at who those people turn out to be. And I'm not saying that those friends have been my friends for decades, but they were friends of mine for seasons. And we were friends for each other for a season when we needed each other and we needed that encouragement. So find yourself some good friends that support you. And again, they might come from books that you're reading. They might come, and I know that those aren't friends, but those are the influences. Those are the circles of positive and the circles of good that we're going to grow from. Now, defending your hearts also means time with your spouse. This was a lesson that I did not learn early in our marriage, or at least I didn't learn it early after having children, is that I need time with my spouse, whether it's in the evening, whether it's super early in the morning, whether it is a weekend away, or he has a trip and I'm able to go along, or whether it's just I took my children across the street to my neighbors, we ordered Chinese, and we watched a movie together. Whatever that looks like, you need to have time with your spouse. You need the physical connection. You also need the emotional and mental connection. When I'm struggling, he's the first person I go to ask questions. Sometimes I say, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to hear me out. Sometimes he'll notice that I'm feeling a little bit, not myself, and he'll ask, "What's going on? How can I help? What needs to be done?" Um, those times are I'm not super needy, but it's been really awesome when we could be a team, to be or at least appear to be on the same side for our children's sake. We might have behind closed doors not agreed on any topic, but when it came down to for the benefit of our children, we were totally on the same page. We were totally on the same frequency about the priorities for our household and what that was going to look like. We may have come at it completely different, but we usually ended up at the same spot of making it a priority, especially with discipline of our children, especially with household responsibilities for our kids. He left the choices of schooling to me. That was my job. He left the household management to me. That was the job. But when it came to finances, we had to be a team. When it came to discipline, we had to be a team because I had to know that he had my back and that we weren't going to undermine one another with the way that we handled different circumstances. I'm not saying that we do it perfectly, even now with young adult children, but it's important that we have our time together so that we know one another. We can read each other. I can be supportive when he's having stress with his work, when he needs things done for him. I'm aware of it before in a way that I can be of usefulness to him. And in supporting him and getting his support for my needs as well. So, time with spouse. The first time that I was able to go out of town with my husband after having four children, it didn't happen like for a really long time, like 7, 8 years. I hadn't been really away with him at all. And I remember him calling me and saying, "Hey, the guy I was supposed to play with at this tournament isn't able to come. I'm being put with a different group, but I still have the room to myself. Do you want to come with me for the weekend?" He was playing in a golf tournament. I will tell you that before my mother called me back to say, "Yes, I can meet you to get the kids," I was already throwing stuff in the back of my car. I was elated. I was so excited. I couldn't even believe that this was happening. I'm telling you, 7 or 8 years that we'd actually even had more than maybe a night together. And then we were going to get like 2 or 3 nights together. It was amazing. But that took a long time. That was the commitment we made. That was the parenting commitment I made to mother and tend to my children in a particular way. And so when they got a little older, I had more freedom, and they had more independence to stay with grandma and grandpa. So time with spouse was key. I encourage you to do that. Again, I didn't learn that early in my marriage. So if you're still within that 10-year range, I would encourage you to make plans to have time alone with your spouse beyond, a dinner date. Just saying. All right. When things are big, please seek professional help. If you and your husband are having issues in your marriage, seek professional help. If you have a car that won't start, seek professional help. If your plumbing or electricity is, on the fritz, call professional help. Whether it's a counselor or someone who can come in and fix the situation in your house, please do so. Budget that, make it so. I learned very quickly that I was not the person to cut my children's hair. I seek professional help. I go to professionals who are trained in these areas to make sure when we are having financial sometimes they were financial issues in our marriage, and we were having just uh, areas of our lives that we couldn't really get a hold of and what those influences were. my husband and I went to counseling. We believe that they are tune ups. Just like our car needs a tune up, we need a tune up. So we go periodically to counseling. We have gone as a family, our kids have gone independently of us. Our kids have gone with their, for premarital counseling and different things like that. We are big proponents of marriage mentoring and counseling. So I encourage you to get help when necessary, whether it's for a personal issue or whether it's for something in your marriage, because our personal stuff is totally going to affect our marriage. And if we're having issues with our children, that affects our marriage. So for us, it's been very good to be able to call in those resources, again, seeking wiser counsel for um, a plan, for some way of working through whether it was trauma, whether it was a chronic illness, whether it was, like I said before, financial situations, um, things that just felt insurmountable in our relationship. We needed to go and get help for those times. So I encourage you to do that to defend your hearts and to strengthen you, fortify you. All right, we are going to embrace the moment we're in. We cannot change all of our circumstances. We cannot, we are not able to fix everything like a magic wand, wave it and it's fixed. We cannot do that. So I want you to embrace the moment. Why am I here? What do I have to learn from this situation? Embrace it, work within its confines, whatever those are, as frustrating as they may be, and move past it in time. These are important aspects for you to realize. You know, it's a little bit different than the carpe diem thought of seize the day because we're embracing the moment that we're in. And the moment that we're in might be that we will wear baby vomit on us for a season until they get over this reflux. It may be that we will only get a bath 3 days a week because we're in this season of our lives at this very moment. Um, we may be that we haven't seen our friends very much because we are in the midst of this, social distancing with COVID. Whatever it is, we need to embrace the moment we're in and make the best of it. Comparing ourselves, regretting what we've done, or looking too much to the future is not going to help us. So we need to live in the moment, not necessarily be satisfied with everything in the moment, but to embrace it to the best of our abilities and say, this is what it is today. Doesn't mean that it's going to be like this every day, but this is what it is today. And either making a plan for improving in this moment or realizing that we have an important lesson to learn in this moment. And some of it might be humility, some of it might be learning to sacrifice ourselves and not be so selfish. Some of it might be that my children's needs are way more important in this season than my own. So these are the things that we focus on, especially with homeschooling. Embracing the moment is key because we're planting seeds every single day. And like seasons, what's been buried in the ground deep all winter long, we finally see bud in the spring and we finally see bloom in the summer. So we need to embrace the moment that we're in and tend to that little seedling so that it grows into something much bigger and much more beautiful on the other side of it. That's why I keep calling these seasons, is because it all passes and it comes in cycles. This concludes avoiding burnout. Now, you're going to face hard times as a homeschooler. You're going to have times that are really, really challenging. But I will tell you that on the other side of them, they're beautiful. And on the other side of them, you're going to have such a sense of accomplishment and so much more confidence because you have walked through these challenging times and you have helped your children through these challenging times. And in the end, you didn't let it overwhelm you. You didn't let it overcome you. They may have passed like a really bad gas pain and you thought you were going to die, but you didn't. and you walk through, and on the other side of it, you were stronger and more capable than you ever thought you were going to be capable of. You avoided the burnout because you defended your heart, you understood the causes, you eliminated stresses when you could, you simplified when you could, you decluttered your mind and your life as much as you could, and you kept strong by reading and gaining new knowledge and insight into the days that you are experiencing right now. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. I hope that on the other side of this workshop, or you go back and you re-listen and you get some words of encouragement for whatever season you are in your life right now, whether it's with littles or whether it's with teenagers. Um, you can find my published works through Amazon, and I do have books on audio, and I do have one about parenting. It's called TWPH, Insights into Living with Teens, but I personally feel like it applies to most any parenting season. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I pray that you are embraced through my experiences and my words of encouragement. Thank you.